Hello, everybody. Welcome to New Earth Teachings Webcast. I'm very happy to have everybody here on live with me tonight. So it's been about a couple weeks since I did the last New Earth Teachings Webcast. I'm happy to be back. This is going to be the last New Earth Teachings Webcast for the 2017 year. So after that, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break. And then we'll be resuming probably between early to mid-January. Around that time, I'll definitely be putting updates on Facebook when the resume date will be. But I've just been basically working a lot more with nature. This is actually kind of the golden time for myself, is I'm just starting to get into the flow of the cold weather, and I'm just basically immersing myself into that cold weather and developing the Tumo technique a lot more. As a matter of fact, there's going to be an online event called Tumo that I'm going to be doing here in January. The event should be up sometime this week on my website, newearthteachings.com. And so it's going to be a live interactive event where I'll basically be outside in my backyard again around the time of January, where it's nice and cold, and doing my entire event outside, basically in just like a tank top and shorts. This is also going to help to mention the TV show that I did just last spring on Vice TV. It's going to be called Mr. Tachyon, and I did an episode there demonstrating the Tumo technique. I can't really talk too much about it because it's still some things I have to keep kind of hush-hush, but I was able to demonstrate the Tumo technique on Vice TV, and so that should be coming out, I think, probably around January or so. Once I know more about when that air date for the TV show is going to be coming out, I'll be posting it on Facebook, and then you guys can check it out. But this is primarily the fun time of the year, is I'm just going to get really immersed into the cold and just have fun in the extreme conditions. And it's going to be a lot of just a really exciting time. You're with the elements, you're with nature, and you're immersing yourself in it. And this is what I've been doing a lot more recently, is just involving myself more with nature. I'm not really too concerned about the melodramas of the world. It's just being able to enjoy nature, have fun, completely unwind, step away from the internet world, step away from the office, step away from the computer, and just immerse yourself in nature, doing qigong and just meditating and just having a blast, being outside. That's how you truly live. You cannot truly live with this silly thing, right? This is fine maybe once in a while, but of course I still do my sessions and I'll do my events and stuff like that. But usually with a lot more of my linear time, it's going to meditation, it's going to outside, it's going to nature, and basically just developing a new quote-unquote dietary system, which is hungry, what do you call it? Hungritarian or something like that. Basically just eating when you're hungry, right? So that's, again, something that I'm doing, and it's actually bringing about some really good positive results so far. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get into the broadcast tonight. So we're going to have some Q&A here in a little while. Firstly, the first thing we're going to do tonight is I'm going to be doing an empathic interfacing with the blue avians. So I was able to talk to the blue avians a few nights ago when I was doing meditation in the pyramid, and just got a little bit of a basic understanding from them, and just kind of had like an empathic communication. And so this will be my first public revealing of connecting with Sun Our Ra and See Our Ra, and basically just see what information can be shared from the blue avians in this particular type of connection. It is very similar to what I did with Nefertitis all of those months ago. Again, I had a conversation with him not too long ago. Everything's going good. He just basically wanted to share the message that he wanted to share through me, and we've done that. And so right now it's just kind of like mellow chatting, and that's about it. So basically that message has been shared. And again, you can find out more about that on my YouTube channel, looking into empathic interfacing with Nefertitis. So basically, empathic interfacing is a little more different than channeling for those who are just witnessing this for the very first time. Empathic interfacing is just being able to connect with your heart space. It's being able to tether your energy to the contact, to the consciousness that has reached out to you. And that's basically what I'm doing with Sun Our Ra and See Our Ra. Those are the two names of the male and the female that represents the blue avians. So it is very similar to what Corey Good has shared relating to the blue avians. The only difference I've noticed with these particular blue avians is that their eyes are purely black. They don't have any kind of distinguishable pupils or anything of that nature. It's pure black eyes, but there's kind of like the blue feathers. It feels like there's a little bit more blue feathers than, again, what was interpreted in the artist's conception with the blue avians. So again, these feel like kind of a different type of blue avian in that way. But again, I'm just going to be doing some empathic interfacing, and if you guys do have some questions for the blue avians, I'll see exactly what can be done in answering questions with them. But they're just going to firstly come through and just share anything that they want to share, and then we'll be getting into Q&A. After that, I'm going to be talking about the topic relating to perspective on disclosure. We're starting to see this a little bit now through media, and so I'll be giving some feedback on that, of course. And then, of course, we'll get into general Q&A after that. Okay, so with general Q&A, I'll basically be connecting off with the blue avians. So it can either be Q&A with myself or with Adronis after that. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and take a moment. It'll probably take a few moments just for me to connect with the blue avians. And then we'll connect and see what they have to say. Then we'll do some blue avian Q&A. Okay, here we go, guys. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, I'm sensing that the blue avians are here, both Sun Ra and Si Ra. They are basically offering greetings. Now, basically, when you connect with Sun Ra, it's that you kind of just like hold your hand out like this, right? And he's going to basically take your finger and just kind of run it around the hand. And that's giving an indication of almost kind of like a secret code word in that way that you know it's kind of him. But that's something that he may give. If anybody else wants to connect with him and they're not too sure, if it's Sun Ra, then just ask him, here's my hand, right? And then just drawing it. So if I was basically holding up like this, kind of like that, okay? That's kind of like his own little secret handshake in a way. Certain blue avians have like secret codes in that way. But Sun Ra may be able to communicate with others, I don't know. But that's just basically what he has shared with me in that way. Basically, the feeling is that they are going to become a lot more prominent on the earth plane. They are going to be reaching out to more people. There is very strong, noticeable, I guess you could say almost, what's the right word to say, is very, very pungent connections with extraterrestrial disclosure that is going to be happening here very soon. There's going to be a lot more revealing. There's going to be a lot more people with answers. It's not about looking in through the government to feel that the answers are going to come, but they will be stimulating topics. And this is what's going to lead into a higher degree of disclosure altogether. There is some solar activity that's taking place, but again, nothing that is representing a culmination of the quote-unquote the event. That again is just all part of different sequences that are coming together. And that again, Sun Ra is basically stating that when we make contact with you, it will be in the dream time. Pretty much, right? I don't feel that it's going to come in any way. And again, it's not so much about channeling them. They really don't like to work with the idea of channeling. It's more, again, like empathic interfacing, right? So you're basically just feeling your heart being touched. You're feeling your heart being connected. And Sun Ra, again, is just letting you know that's how they connect with you. It's all through heart. It's all through feeling. It's very similar to how I connect with Adronis in that way. It's just, again, through empathic channeling communication, but of course it is through channeling. This is through empathic interfacing, or again, like a type of mediumship altogether. They exist within, well, it's almost kind of like difficult to explain. It's a space that they exist. It's not really the idea of a spaceship. It's not the idea of them, some sort of spacecraft. They exist within some type of domain, some type of realm. And it does consist within that of the sixth density. Sun Ra and Si Ra represent that of sixth density blue avian beings. And so they exist in this kind of realm. It's kind of like they would take you into their own astral realm. Or again, having kind of like the meetings of the mind, they connect together and they are taking you into this astral realm. And basically it's kind of like a very safe, contained, area with whatever they reveal is not being leaked. It's kind of like having secure connections together in that way. I'm just asking Sun Ra exactly what is his nature in being here at this time. He is working together with his brethren in that way, working together with his fellow people, and slowly introducing new concepts, seeding them into the collective consciousness. And so it's almost like looking at these small rays that are penetrating the atmosphere, and that they are connecting with specific people that hold a certain genetic code within their own DNA. So you basically have to have a certain genetic code, or basically I would say a certain genetic code has to awaken within yourself at a particular point for you to connect with them. And that they have gone back millions of years, well into our past, and they have worked together with the seed in bringing their own genome, so to speak, together with humanity. And so they have been part of the great experiments that have happened here a great deal of time ago. And they were here even before that time, to where before man itself came upon the planet. And so they have worked very, very thoroughly with our kind throughout millions and millions of years. That there have been, again, a lot of depictions of the aspects of Avian gods, Egyptian culture, Sumerian culture. All of this, again, relates to the aspect of the blue avians. And at the time, I wasn't too sure about that. But of course, this is what Sun Ra is sharing, is that they have been able to connect with your ancient people on Earth, and they were telling about the lineages to where Earth came from. This is why when you look at the Egyptian hieroglyphs, Sumerian hieroglyphs, etc., that you start to see many of these particular beings. And they all represent the star relatives. They represent star ancestry, star family. And that they have come here at this time as a return of the guardians, return of the masters, return of the star family. And so there will be a lot more contacts coming forward. It does feel like there has been a great amount of progress taking place within the galactic community, within the super federations. There are other civilizations that are going to be introducing themselves soon. Many of them will be very much human-like to ourselves. They will have somewhat very similar genetics to ourselves, and they will exist, or they are existing, within a lot of the neighborhood stars close to our star in that way. So basically looking into beings that could be from Kruger, beings that could be from Wolf 359, a lot of our own local star system. And there are beings that exist within these stars and have basically, quote-unquote, cloaked their planets. And it's, again, for many reasons. It's not just for humanity's non-familiarity with them, but they are also cloaking their planets. Basically, when they are saying that they're cloaking, they're putting up a veil to make it feel like it's an uninhabitable planet. And so it's kind of like, it's a very interesting way about how they do this. It's actually a different dimension that is veiled over their planet. The closest approximation I could give in regards to analogy is that there have been people that have gone on board spaceships that may only be about 20 feet, 30 feet long. They go inside the spacecraft and it's now about 20 times its size. Well, that's about the same thing that they do with planets. Planets that basically wish to be undiscovered and undisturbed will put together a dimensional holographic veil. And they will actually imprint this particular veil that will become conducive just to our physical plane. So when you actually go on the planet itself, it's existing as that particular quote-unquote desolate world. But when they want to make contact with you, the aspect of the landscape will shift because you're shifting. So they're shifting your energy into another particular domain, and then you'll be able to see their own planet. And that's primarily what a lot of these civilizations may do. They may find the idea of worlds that may not be able to inhabit life, and letting them know that that's not the case. Many of the worlds that you see, many of them inhabit life. It just may not be life to the way you know it. I'm asking Sun Ra about the Goldilocks principle, and is that something that is actually, okay, you're saying, it's not about the Goldilocks principle. That, again, is just part of a physics aspect. There are abilities to where certain planets where you don't think could actually receive, quote-unquote, the warmth from the sun actually do receive enough warmth in that way. That is based upon simple physics basis calculation where they feel that you must always be in the Goldilocks zone for certain planets to survive. That's not true. Again, many of them have many different forms of, I guess, solar rays. Some of them also may have certain technologies that exist within the planet as well too that is actually warming the planet, right? And that the aspect of their own star works together in the effect of its own gravitation, from what he's saying. He says, don't always put so much faith in the Goldilocks zone. It's not always the case. It may seem like it is, but it's not so much the case in that way. So that's basically what he's saying. But basically, from what's being stated here is that many of these particular cloaked planets will start to introduce other civilizations that will be part of these super federations that will be coming in. And again, specific contacts will be coming through. So it will look like people who are almost Native American. It will look like people who are Mediterranean or Latino. It will represent other particular beings who may also be Nordic. And again, so there are many other human races that are now opening up their channels, so to speak, and now being able to make contact with other civilizations. I'm also going to ask Sun Ra about the aspect of harvest. And again, there have been mixed stories about the degrees of percentages. And of course, Adronis has given his own perspective about this, and I'm just curious about Sun Ra's perspective. It is more important to focus upon what it is that you truly understand by letting go of what you don't prefer. And of course, when that happens, you'll find yourself in the reality that you prefer. It may not be in a state of clarity to what you may be familiar with when it comes to your surroundings of people. But all it really involves is that it's a matter of switching and transferring bodies. There is already a fourth density body, as you know. It is when you are able to accumulate the appropriate frequency of what that body is that you will therefore occupy that body through the consciousness shift that you are experiencing. And so this is very similar to what Adronis has stated as well too, is that don't worry so much about the aspects of percentages, because everybody will wind up exactly where they need to be. Some will be in third density, some will be in fourth density, but it's just about being compliant with the vibration that you feel you can align to as it relates to a specific body. So for those who are graduates of fourth density, have been able to do a lot of inner work. They've been able to work with a lot of heavy emotional situations. They've been able to bring a lot of love and compassion and forgiveness to themselves. And by doing so, they make themselves feel lighter. And of course, Sun Ra is even mentioning, yes, go out in nature. Start playing in nature more. Spend nights, spend days in nature. Let go of your artificial society. The more you let go of your artificial society and come back to what is truly important by being one with nature, you are no longer concerned about the artificial means to what these systems represent. Let it all go. Just start to play with nature again. Earth provides you with everything that you require when you decide to integrate yourself harmoniously within nature. When you basically interact with this system, it has no particular form of ethics relating to your own state of sense of security. It is a zoo, that's the best way he can put it. It is a zoo, it is an artificiality. And it is basically created to make you feel miserable, to create suffering within your life. That's how it works. It's the aspect of scarcity, for scarcity creates the best consumer. And that's what you become as long as you are aligned to an artificial system that represents your modern world. Let it go. Let it die, basically, from what he's saying. And it's not saying in the idea of destruction as in blow it up or anything like that, but it's basically saying let it die as this old paradigm of yourself that is therefore transitioning away, right? So this is kind of like what Sun Ra and Siyar Ra are kind of sharing together, is that when you connect with nature and you basically have this feeling of abundance all around you, you connect with the trees, you connect with the forest, you connect with the animals, you connect with all life, you are now as an animal yourself. But it does not relate to that of savagery. It relates to that of serenity. You now become a part of the natural cycle. You now start existing in love with all that represents yourself. Every day feels like a joyous adventure. Every day is a moment because you're spending so much time working with yourself. You're spending so much time working with nature around you. You're spending so much time just being timeless. And that is the true reality. You will never find serenity in your modern system, so why give it power? That is a very important thing for you to realize. Let it go, let it die. So, what we're going to discover in fourth density, and again in the aspect of transitional time, is that many people will turn back to nature. It will be very much to how the Native Americans have lived, where they live off the land, where people will continue to provide for the land. They will be able to grow food. They will be able to work in equilibrium with the environment. They will take care of the animals. They will take care of the plants and the vegetation. And you will now start to form communities. And it may feel, quote unquote, rogue at first, because it is a very different life. It is nothing like your convenience, and convenience is the grandest state of illusion. Let go of that state of over-convenience, of conveniencing yourself too much, where you do not know how to interact with nature. You're now an alien to nature. And that is what it is to be an alien. It is to basically estrange yourself from your natural mother, which represents Mother Earth, which represents nature. Whenever you are estranged and do not know the ways of nature, you're an alien. And again, that's primarily how it works. It's not so much in the idea that many different civilizations existing on other worlds are estranged to nature. To many, that is a foreign concept. They could never imagine themselves being apart from their loving mother planet. And so, they will help to educate those who have chosen the path of extremism as it relates to technology. And technology is just an artificial world. It's no more different than a type of virus. You don't really need it. It's not to say that you cannot have certain forms of technology that can work together with the earth, that can assist you in certain ways, but the earth already provides for you. It already has everything that you need. Should you utilize the aspect of technology, do not see it as a dependability. That you cannot live without technology is to be of the alien concept. It's to connect with the earth again. It's to go barefoot. It's to walk upon the grass. It's to walk upon the soil. It's to walk upon the rocks. It's to walk through the water. To go for a swim. To take in all of the sights and sounds and smells and tastes and just feel everything around you, because this is your natural body. So basically, from what the Blue Avians are saying here, is really integrate with nature. This is what the ancients did, and this is why they have been able to prosper at those times as such a loving society. It was through the introduction to technology that made everything go awry, that made everything feel like it was out of sorts, because other beings were coming to this planet and they were using all of these technological gizmos. They were using technology, and that is what created the large stain as it represents polarization. Feeling that I need to be superior because I have to control what this planet does, rather than letting the planet guide me. What you're experiencing on your world right now is man's attempt to control nature. By having all of these cities, by having all of this technology, by basically enforcing all of these things upon its people, it is a plague. And so the more that you start to advance past that modern society image of technology, and you start to come back into your natural livelihood of nature, and it all starts just by stepping outside and going out into nature and playing with everything that's around you. Play with the forest, play with the trees, hug the trees, smile as you exist in this forest. as you become part of nature again. This is what fourth density will truly understand. So there will be certain areas on your planet that will still be technological. Again, technology does not have to be quote unquote completely gotten rid of, as long as it works together in complement with the planet, and as long as it represents that of a tool for you, but not something that's taking over your life, that has created such a heavy dependency that you can simply not even live without it. That is an enslavement, and that is an alien-like feature. So this is primarily what the blue avians are saying. But again, going back into the topic of other civilizations, there are many different local star systems of civilizations that are coming here now, that are part of these super federations, that will start making appropriate contacts. Again, much of the inner Earth races are also doing the same. There's just an all-out assistance call right now, because you are getting closer to the shift. So, again, they're not able to give specific dates, because even there's certain things that we cannot fully predict as it relates to timelines. It can happen in many different opportunistic times, but it will be coming very soon. And as stated, watch the sun. See how the sun reacts. Notice the coronal mass ejections. Notice the solar flares that are taking place upon your planet. This is all part of the symphony that will begin, that triggers the event. When the event comes, when that solar flash hits, it is very unlikely that any of your current technology will survive. It's very unlikely that any of your electrical systems will survive. Basically stating that much of your own electrical systems, technological systems, satellites will fry. And you may very well be out of power for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, maybe even up to a year. Depends where you are in the world. But something is going to basically get sizzled as it relates to the technological aspect altogether. Okay? So this is something important as well too, is that integrating yourself back into nature and realizing that you are allowing yourself to live through the elements naturally. You won't be concerned about this when you start living back together in the way of the indigenous. This is what's recommended. So within these next approximate few years of time, get integrated with nature. Start spending some time out in nature. Start feeling what it is like without having electricity, without having technology with you, and start playing together with the indigenous areas. You don't have to, it's up to you, but that would certainly be a great recommendation. Okay? So this is primarily, again, the message that the Blue Avians want to share all together with all of us. Okay? So that's kind of their general message. So I will just see if there is any questions that anybody has. And if you guys do want to share any questions, just feel free to write it here on the chat. Eric asks, is Brad in a channeled state? His eyes are closed, but it doesn't sound like he's channeling. No, I'm not in a channeling state. I basically close my eyes because it allows me to center and to focus and to connect with Sun Ra and See Ra's energy. And again, the way that they transmit is very similar to how Adronis does. But again, it's not them coming into a synchronization that relates to channeling. It's more of a synchronization that is more like a mediumship. And again, it comes through an empathic awareness. So it's more like a mediumship from what I'm doing here than a type of channeling, which again I call empathic interfacing. And basically I just, again, close my eyes to keep myself centered, to keep myself aligned, and to focus on what is being shared empathically. So that's the best way I can put it. So let's go down the list here. Okay. Okay, here's one from Kelly Joy Freeman. She asks, would the solar event affect our plans? No, not in the form that would cause any kind of particular harm. There will certainly be shifts upon the planet. There may also be the possibility of darkness exceeding perhaps more than just a day long. Again, it is uncertain about how that may happen. It is not entirely certain that the sun will go black, and that this would be what you would refer to as the prophecy of 3 days of darkness. It is uncertain at this time. If it does happen, then it is important for you to settle. It's basically what he's saying, just settle. It's important for you to all settle. Be in your space. Just be with the flow to where the earth guides you. Listen to your body. Listen to the true mind, the true heart. You'll be exactly where you need to be to those who listen. Now, you'll notice that again, if that does take place, if there are multiple days of darkness that do take place, the animals will still function. Again, it may feel like it's out of the ordinary, of course, because you have so much nighttime. But it will not affect the lifespan of nature in any particular way. It'll be almost like a hibernation period in that way. Think of it in the idea like an eclipse, as if an eclipse, a solar eclipse, was meant to exist for several days at a time. Nature in that sense is not being harmed, but it certainly is a migration of hibernation in that way. And so there can be a hibernation effect that takes place. But when this does happen, and if this does happen for several days at a time, just stay with nature. Let nature guide you. Follow together with what nature shares. And this is the most important thing. When you're with nature, when you're with your heart, when you're with your being, when you're staying calm and you're settling yourself down, that's what's going to lead you into prosperity, right? So it's not 100% guaranteed right now. If it may relate to the idea of a 3 days of darkness or perhaps even more, that's still unknown in this way. And again, it's not just the blue avians. Even Adronis hasn't been able to give full 100% answers as it relates to this, simply because we're just not sure. This is something that is uniquely happening for the first time in Earth's history as it relates to this kind of induced aspect of evolution, of shifting from one dimension into another. No other planet has gone through it in this way. And so there's certain things that cannot be shared at this time because other events need to play out first. And once other events play out first, then there can be bits more of clarity that can come through. Okay, so thank you again, Kelly, for your questions. Or your question, I should say. Yes, Ulig Beck says, hi, Corey said that the alliance is for partial disclosure. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about that shortly, so I'll talk about the partial disclosure aspect, because that is primarily what's happening right now. What can we do to bring full disclosure in? Well, again, I'll talk more about that, but to sum it up real quick, inform people, educate, right? Nick asks, do we have genetic links to the blue avians? Let me ask Sanar Ra that. Do we have genetic links to the blue avians? It's going like this. Yep. But there's only a certain amount of people that will have a certain genetic code, so to speak, fired, ignited, that will allow them to have communications with the blue avians. So the blue avians would be one of these particular co-creators of humanity in that way. Again, they could represent that of what you would know as the guardian race. Now, basically, this is what Sanar Ra is saying as well, too, is that they are human. Okay? They are what you would refer to as a distant evolutionary descendant that began to mix their own genetics with what you would refer to as this avian appearance. But they are very much human. They are very much from our distant future. And they are eventually what we are going to become. We will start being able to mix together with different, you could say, different aspects of our own genome to where you can appear avian, to where you can appear somewhat like the Zetans or the Greys, somewhat reptilian as well too. It's all contained within our own genetics. It's basically just an evolutionary path that happens, we could even say just hundreds of thousands of years down the road in that way, and that they align themselves into this particular appearance that they have before us, but they are very much human in that way. So they represent this deep, distant future, as it were, evolutionary descendant of ourselves. So they are human. It's very interesting. And that's kind of like the big thing, is that there are many different beings that have evolved from the great depths, linearly speaking, from our future. And that they have come very deeply, linear speaking, into our past. And that they have seeded this world with a new, refined, and renewed aspect of genetic material, right? So basically the past is the future is the past. It's very much like what Nefertitis was saying as well, too, is that much of his people came here from the great distant future to come into the great distant past and being able to see this world, right? Because it was almost like a blank slate, things starting all over again, so that humanity would not spiral out of control. Because if humanity does spiral out of control, and we are able to become an intergalactic race, right, and we start weaponizing space, we would take over the whole galaxy, right, with that particular type of mentality, and there would be tyranny everywhere, right? And that's again why they have come back, and to basically clean the slate, renew everything, and start off on a foot to where humanity returns back into its authentic self, right? So that's primarily, again, part of why they're here. Okay, guys, we're going to take about 3 more questions for the Blue Avians, and then we're going to move on to the next topic. Stacy asks, will humanity be assisted prior to or during the solar event? It seems like the majority of the population will be experiencing a lot of fear from this. You're right. They will. You can't control that, right? And again, from what Sanar Ra is saying, is that yes, this is unavoidable. We understand that many of you want to reach out and bring people up, to take them up into the platforms that you wish to stay on. But that is not the way it is. You have to respect other people to where they are. You can educate, you can inform, but it is up to them to realize exactly what is their path. So this is where we have said that there will be those that will occupy appropriate bodies based upon the compliance of energies that they are in at that moment to where everything shifts, right? So that's kind of what he's getting the impression of here, is that humanity is being assisted right now, right? It's not like they're waiting for a certain time. That's why, again, I'm coming through, I'm channeling. There's many other channelers that are channeling. There's psychics, there's intuitives, there's black ops personnel, there's whistleblowers, right? You have all of these people that are coming forward and spreading this message right now. This isn't something that's going to be happening in the future. It's happening right now, because now is all there is, right? But the whole idea is that people are very much consumed to the idea of this archaic system of modern society, of modern civilization. They don't want to give it up. And because they don't want to give up, they will basically look at your message at face value and say, no, I don't care. I don't care. I have my big car, I got my big house, I got my big paying job, I got my big bank account. I'm happy where I am. Okay? Nothing you can do about that. He needs to stay where what he creates. She needs to stay with what she creates. You cannot force this upon people, right? As much as we would love to see everybody come up to 4th density, it's not going to work that way, right? We're just doing what we can as messengers to share our information, and if people are in resonance with it, that's great. You know, there are some people that may not be in resonance with what I'm sharing here, and that's okay. I'm not here to change any of you. To me, all of you are great. Where you are, right where you are, you don't need to change a thing for me. I'm not here to govern your life. I'm not here to control you. I'm not here to take responsibility for you at all. I'm sharing as a guide. Many other people are sharing as guides and mentors. You have to make the change. You have to decide if this is something that's very, very important to you, then look within. Right? Go out to nature, connect with nature, let go of the aspect of so much of a dominion of feeling that technology and modern society is basically, giving you the iron claw here, right? You have to make your own decisions. That's you being a free will human being, okay? We can't change people, period. We can only change ourselves. We look into the perspective that works for us, and then everything propagates appropriately based upon the compliance of that energy in that moment, right? That's the important thing to remember. So we're always getting assistance. We're always being guided, but it's being able not to just do this, right? Oh, I want to hear my favorite channeler today. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, that was good. Now I have to go off to work, and I have to go in this office and the job that I absolutely hate, but at least I get to hear this today. Blah, 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 blah. That is useless, right? And this is what I'd recommend to everybody. Don't just tune into this because you want to hear me blab, right? Really listen into what's being said here and doing what you can to say that if this is something that strikes a chord with you, that's something that may sound familiar, give yourself permission to explore it, right? I can't make you do that. Nobody else can. You have to be the governor. You have to be the governor of your own reality, the sovereign of your own reality. You have to make this happen. Nobody else is going to, okay? very important. Take responsibility into your own hands. So that's, again, me being blunt, but kind of like an energy behind me encouraging that bluntness as well too. Okay, guys, we'll take about 2 more questions and we're going to move on to the next topic. Okay, let me see if I got any more questions here. Okay. Yeah, from Simone here. Could you ask them about the energy surrounding the big island of Hawaii and its lava flow? Thank you. It's an uprising, from the best way that can be conveyed. It's a lifting of energies. It's a lifting of a great amount of purging. It's also been something that requires a cleansing as well too. That the island of Hawaii, again, has had a great amount of distortion through generations, and that when volcanoes like this happen, it's purging, it's releasing a lot of that energy, so that this energy can therefore become transmuted, and therefore Hawaii becomes purified. So primarily when you discover these areas around the planet that are going through heavy transformations, earth shifts, it's not that it's attempting to instill terror. It's that this needs to be released, right? It's like ourselves. When we're doing some energy work, we're doing these very strong breaths. Sounds very intense, and it may even sound scary at times, but that's us purging energy. That's us working with emotional states, and these emotional states may be very scary, but we're working with them. We're releasing them, right? We're sending them back into bliss. That's primarily what's happening with the Earth right now. She's going through these intense shifts. She's going through these major cycle changes and helping to purify herself, because she's getting everything ready for this jump, for this moving into the next dimension. So that's primarily what's happening right now. Okay. How do we know if we have the blue avian genes, from what Uligbek here says? Connect with them. Just being able to connect with what you believe the blue avian energy is. Now here's the funny thing. I didn't have any intention of connecting with the blue avians. I thought they were interesting, but I really had no intention of connecting with them. It wasn't until I had a couple of dreams when the blue avians started coming in, and they started to want to communicate with me. So they basically knocked on my door and said, Brad, hey, we want to talk to you about some stuff. Like, okay, great, right? So as I got into meditation, I started to connect with them all together. Excuse me. So the blue avians primarily will connect with you, right? If you want to connect with them, you can. They're a lot more different than a lot of the other beings out there. They're very, very secretive in that way as it relates to connection. It's kind of like you go through a very heavy screening process, and one of the screening processes is humility, right? They really look for a person who has a lot of humility. Excuse me, guys, sorry. Who has a lot of humility, and just not, too carried away with a messiah complex or anything of that nature. But someone who just generally wants to be a messenger, someone who can basically convey to people their messages. That's primarily what they look for. I have met a few other people that claim that they have also connected with the blue avians as well too. They've had conversations with them. Fantastic, that's great. If they reach out to you, great, be their messenger in that way. But you can always put out a call to them and see if they connect. But it's kind of like picking up a phone, right? If we're picking up a phone or we're dialing a number and saying, come on, man, hurry up and pick up, we can't go to that other end and pick up the phone, right? All we're doing is placing a call, because I may get people that will watch this broadcast afterwards and saying, Brad, how do I connect to the blue avians? I want to connect to the blue avians. I want to talk to them about stuff. And blah, blah. I'm not the man to talk to, right? If you want to talk to the blue avians, you need to go talk to them right from their source, right? You can put out a call. It's up to them if they want to respond to you. And if they don't take it personally, right? Start to work on yourself. Believe me, there were times in the past where I wasn't too much in a state of humility. I felt that I needed to get all this information out. It was so important. It was so dire. And, this information needed to be shared because we're going through immense changes. Everybody should know this, right? And I've certainly have calmed down a lot the past couple of years. And just sharing this because this is what I enjoy. I'm not doing this because this is something that absolutely 100% I have to do or else, right? It's the idea that I have come to terms with everything that I'm sharing, and I do it because I love it. And this is part of who I am, right? That's why I do it. So again, if they connect with you, you will know that they connect with you. It's the best way that I can say. They certainly showed me when they connected with me. I'm sure with Corey Good's interaction together with him, he has a very different way. He actually goes up and sees them quote unquote, in the physical. I don't do that. I've connected to them in the dream time a couple times, and I've connected with them in meditation. I'm connecting with them tonight through empathic interfacing, and that's my relationship with them. So it's very different than what Corey Good does. Okay, guys, one more question, and we're going to wrap up here, and we're going to move on to the next topic. Actually, I think that's it. Oh, here's one. Who would want to be a human eating lizard, which are, by the way, in government and media? I don't know. I don't want to deal with that stuff. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, great, guys. So we're going to go ahead and switch gears now. So I want to give thanks and love and appreciation to Sun Ar Ra and to Sea Ar Ra. Thank you so much for your presence. Thank you so much for joining us. Much love to you. Thank you. Blessings. Okay. Let's just take a moment now, guys. We're just going to take a moment here. So, our next topic of conversation is going to relate to that of a perspective of disclosure. Now, what many of us may be realizing right now is that there has been a lot of news reports about a certain governmental piece of footage, so to speak, about a certain spacecraft. There's also the giant blunt in space, as I call it. The giant joint in space that's floating around in space, and there's getting a lot of media attention. This is all on purpose, okay? It's not to say that this is some mind-blowing information. It's not, you know? It's been around for such a long time. They basically have now reached the point where there are certain veils that have dropped, and now they're basically ushering in a very pre-planned, pre-boxed, pre-concept of partial disclosure. This is all part of the plan, right? First, they're going to start talking about these different types of spacecraft, and there may be more releasing of government files that they'll start to talk about. Then they may look into some of the exoplanets. They may talk about bacteria that they're finding. They may start to talk about vegetation, flora and fauna that they might be finding on one of these exoplanets or whatever it is. And then it eventually will move forward into, oh, well, there may be, possibly, that there may have been an ancient civilization that connected with human beings that was not of human or not of Earth origin. It's so predictable and so stale. Who gives a shit? Right? It's their partial disclosure agenda. And it's all by the book. And basically, again, it's great that it's coming out, right? Because it's just, you know, introducing people more to the concept who, with all due respect to them, if you don't really understand that other civilizations exist, you're pretty dense. No offense, of course. But this is primarily the partial disclosure project that's taking place here. Again, there was a question previously of saying, how do we make this full disclosure? I don't know, guys. I don't think we can on a collective consciousness level. It's basically that the full disclosure aspect comes from you. There needs to be such a majority aspect from the populace to shift it into another level. So if there are much more deeper aspects of disclosure that come about, maybe in the next couple of years or whatever it is, then there certainly may be a very large push to that full disclosure. But let's just be honest, as it relates to a full disclosure right now, this is all just grassroots, right? This is the very minute aspect of percentage as it relates to people that are being aware of this. And again, we would love to have more people. But again, this is not reaching CNN. This is not reaching Fox News. This is not reaching MSNBC or RT or anything of that nature, right? The major lamestream media, so to speak. And so we just have ourselves. We have the grassroots, right? So basically what I say is that make yourself the full disclosure, right? You be the full disclosure. You connect with these energies. You work with yourself, right? Don't worry about trying to, quote unquote, save the entire world. It's not your responsibility. Just start to connect with this in your own way, and now just spread your light, right? Educate and inform. That's all I'm doing. I've talked to all kinds of different beings from all over the cosmos, from different dimensions. I've connected with a lot of this type of universal information and expanding myself in regards to how other civilizations exist and everything. But I'm not on CNN, I'm not on Fox News, nor did I want to be, right? I just am happy to receive all this information and just pass it on to people that want to hear it, and seeing if maybe that's something that works for them. And if they want to take it to the next level and become the full disclosure themselves, then they can. It's not just so much in the idea of feeling that we need to force this aspect of full disclosure, because when a society is not ready for it, I don't care what you do. I don't care how good of a good speaker you are, right? If there's no official statements or any official momentum that is carrying that forward into the mainstream, it's not going to be heard, right? It's the whole idea that there needs to be this particular pre-plan. And when this pre-plan disclosure comes about, there again may be something that will just shock and awe a lot of people. And that may trigger something that can therefore, leap forward in that particular way. So we can always encourage people, we can always inspire, we can always educate, and we can always inform and negotiate. But that's all we can do, right? We're not here on the stage of the entire planet where we're at the top of the mountain and we're with a megaphone. We're saying, hey, everybody, extraterrestrials exist. There's spacecraft. We've had thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of reports since the 1900s, etc., right? It's like, okay, yeah, that's fun. You have fun with that, right? It's all just part of a silly popularity game, right? It's basically, quote unquote, that you need to give it to people with influence, like a president of the United States, like a UN council, like world leaders, like celebrities, etc., that it actually starts to go somewhere, right? Now, maybe in the next couple of years, maybe that does happen. Right now, though, they're still playing out the partial disclosure agenda. Basically telling the population of the planet, oh, by the way, there's a partial disclosure agenda. People won't even know what the hell you're talking about, right? Well, what the hell do you mean by partial disclosure? What's that? Oh, about ETs. What do you mean about ETs? What are you talking about? And then you have to go back to square one, right? And you're talking to all these people and they have to catch up. So basically the whole idea is just continue to educate, continue to inform, continue to inspire, and educate people, right? And as we do this one person at a time through all of ourselves, now that starts to get a lot of leeway, right? But again, it will take time for that to happen. It's just, look how long it's taken for us to basically go into a deep state of awakening when it comes to the aspect of the government spying on us or looking into pedogate and all that stuff. Look how long that took, right? It's the whole idea is that people get this very strong truth bomb that blows up, right? And now they react to it because, again, these official channels come out and start sharing this information. And because people are so heavily programmed as it relates to a system that is monitored and filtered with so much knowledge, that's how they start to react, is when these official channels come out. So again, don't feel like you're pushing it on the entire world and saying, I got to get this out to the entire world. No, man. Just, go with your own flow, bring about your information, and share to what you feel you can share. Educate to what you feel you can educate. It's not about the idea that you have to force yourself to go into this area and connect to all these people and say that you have to change them. You can't change anybody, as I've said before, right? I continue to do what I do, and I got on a TV show, I've gotten on radio shows and stuff like that. That was never my intention. It's just something that came about and saying, sure, this will reach out more people. I'm happy to do it, right? And that's basically the whole idea, is that when you're basically in a state of humility, when you're very much mellow about this and you're just sharing for the love of sharing, now if the universe really wants to share your message together through the collective consciousness decision, it'll start presenting windows of opportunity for you. Or you can manifest them together yourselves. But the whole idea here is just share to what you feel. You can share and you can inform, you can educate. Because again, this is going to be very, ABC and 1, 2, 3 with people who have been within the extraterrestrial disclosure field for a long time, exopolitical field, UFO researcher field, etc. It's just the basic of the bare. Oh my goodness, hey, look at this. There's an unknown craft, but we can't say if it's an extraterrestrial. We can only say it's a UFO. And it's like looking at kindergartens trying to spell out the letter A on a whiteboard. It's brutal. Except the children are much more smarter. So just listening to these very, very stale news reporters, just makes you want to puke. But again, it's great that we're receiving this. This is again the partial disclosure movement that's taking effect. So again, veils have had to drop. And basically now there's even people admitting, oh yes, it's kind of, sort of, maybe, in some way, possibly, possible that they're made somewhat, somewhere, in some way, particularly in that way, be another life beyond our planet. Took him like 5 minutes to say that. It's hilarious. It really is just hilarious laughing at it and looking at this, right? So we know a lot of stuff, right? And so being able to really just educate and inform other people. And again, that's the best thing that we can all ask for. All right? So that's my perspective on the partial disclosure. Okay, I'm going to move down to see if there's any other questions here. Okay. Just give me a sec, guys. I'm just checking some of the questions here. Just got some comments on here pretty much so far. Hi, Brad. Hello, Angela. Thank you for being here. Just from Jerry. Jerry says, disclosure is coming out because people are seeing through the lies and deceptions. Those who are hiding stuff won't be able to when more and more people develop their telepathic abilities. The external exposure to disclosure is less important than the internal discovery and embodiment. You got it. And Jerry, well put, right? That's it. We're becoming the disclosure factory ourselves, right? It's when millions of people start sharing themselves with other people, now you're creating a critical mass here, right? When everybody just starts to take out their knowledge caps and put them on, and you start to share your information, and everything that you're getting from within is your true news source. That's your wisdom source right there, right? And that's what's going to tilt the scales. When everybody just stops worrying about, oh, when's the government going to say this? Who gives a crap about the government? When have they ever done really anything great, right? It's just all part of machine. It's an artificiality. Stop waiting for them, right? Take what you know and share it. Educate, be a teacher, be a mentor, and continue to be a student as you continue to develop yourself from within. That's what's the most important thing here, okay? Simple as that. Okay, I'm going to ignore the round or flat earth question, for God's sakes. Cadabra Abra says, haha, just being woke up in Europe, wrote my dream down, and being felt to check dream person photo. Okay, I don't know. All right, guys, if there are any other questions, just feel free to put it up here in the chat. It looks like everybody's just kind of having some nice conversations, which is great. But we're basically running short on time anyways right now. So, again, this will be the last webcast for 2017. And again, I've really enjoyed the year of connection. And I've basically called it the year of connection. Adronis has also called it the year of connection. And some people can find out why that's why, or want to find out exactly why it was named that. And really, when we're looking into our darkness, when we're looking into our shadows, when we've seen exactly how we've been disconnected, because 2017 has thrown a lot of hefty curveballs our way. And it's when we realize that we have received this curveball, that it's all part of us going into the extremes of our darkness to realize we're able to now start doing a lot of inner work. And when we start doing a lot of inner work, we work with our traumas, we work with our emotions, we work with these situations that are coming about. Now we're actually starting to become reconnected, right? So the year of connection is basically going into the depths of darkness and realizing exactly what has been happening in your life so that you can now take those two tethers and tie them together, right? To bring connection further comes from the depths of exploring your own darkness that will then propel you into the light, right? As I stated, all primordial knowledge comes from darkness, and aspects of everything that represents wisdom is the aspect of the light, because it's refined knowledge. This is why I say knowledge is not the most important thing here. It's wisdom. It's you being able to apply and discipline and refine the knowledge that came from darkness to realize this is what I don't want. It's like looking at a big gigantic block of clay and you're stripping away all the unnecessities until the true form that you want to create is revealed, right? That's the whole idea of going through darkness. You're taking that knife and you're cutting out all of those unnecessary bits, but you're thanking that block of clay because without it, you could not refine yourself. And that's the nature of darkness. Thanking the darkness for showing me all these extremes about myself that no longer suit me so that I can now refine myself into the true form that I see within the clay, right? That is the understanding. Okay, so we're going to wrap up for now, guys. I'm going to thank you all for tuning into this broadcast this evening. And again, I will speak to you again through the New Earth Teachings webcast in the new year, 2018, the year of renewal. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have wonderful holidays, a wonderful solstice, and take care wherever you are in the world. Much love to you all. Namaste, and see you in 2018. Take care.